Oh, where you watch, look where you watch, know where you watch. Choose the right thing to watch. And this enough to watch. Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gargan, Facebook and YouTube. And that enough to watch. The movie star fly take off from Palpatine TV, so that. Boom!
A big sound, a big tune.
Ja holy Emmanuel I, boy. Ja Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon, well. Gideon got busting out them head again. So much oppression poor people face right now. Them crying out for freedom. Them crying out for free speech. Then said them want to stand up like them black liberators. Like Malcolm X and Martin Luther. And ancient monarchy will come pave the way, sir. Free up black people from me tear down them fence, yeah. Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon, well. The Gideon got busting out them head. I listen, I the power of the Trinity. Give us the teeth of His Majesty. And we know what, not every...
Blow, Mr. Gargan, blow. Blow till me dance up to.
Woman, you sexy from your born. Walkie, woman. You born sexy. You sexy from your born. Spin your hole, make them see the bumper. And no dumper. Walkie, woman. Woman, you sexy from your born. Walkie, woman. Me like how you walk. You just a walkie. And a talkie up. You back it up, cock it up, fling it up, ice it up. The thing pretty and buffy. Walkie, woman. You know sucky. You like when me should up. Walkie, woman. Me like when you sweaty. And wetty. Just like when rain fall off of your body like a raindrop. Walkie, woman. Me like when you wake up and you put on your makeup. Then you say you want to brace up. Not tears up, make me feel up. Then we kiss up, and the lips. That and the split up. Yo, walkie, woman. Me like how you walk. You just a walkie, and talkie up. Yo, the thing pretty and buffy. You know flappy, or sappy. Your skin smooth like a young baby body. That's why them a watchy, and a chatty. Woman, you sexy from your body. Yo, they like when you wake up and you put on your makeup. Then you say you want come brace up. Yo, make we kiss up, woman. You sexy from your body. And the lips, not on the split up. Yo, walkie. You just a walkie. Walkie, woman. Me like how you walk. Woman, you sexy from your band. You like when me draw the long gun and me stick you up. Walkie, just a pinty up. Way, walkie. Woman, you sexy from your band. 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 Up and running, up and gunning. Sticky Stucky Sweet TV, Keith Gargan, Cassava, mind over matter. Blessed Friday evening, Friday morning, Friday afternoon, you know, the thing work over the globe, you know, everybody have them one time. But blessed Friday, give thanks for life. Again, wake up, and you know you can do that chat, eat some food, whether you smoke, you smoke. Now encourage the one to smoke, but everybody do them things, everybody have a pattern and a line and follow in a life to survive. Some do it to take out stress. Some do it because them like it. Some do it for all different type of reasons. For people, life is a mystery. So we give thanks to life again. But anyway, and the further you live in the right, I want to really compare two things. Because when the big UN World Organization really link up and we have the Caribbean people there, so, and with two close neighbor, Caribbean, Barbados, and also Jamaica. So we are talking about a puppet and a string leader versus a real patriotic type of MP. So one MP is a puppet, and one Miss M.A. Motley is a real veteran and fighter for your country and stand up for the people, the good of the people. No corruption. Run that woman, they should fight it. So she's a real patriot. Yeah, man, for your country. And the other one, Andrew Holness, is a puppet and a string. And we just analyze the two speech. Right, we're going to analyze the two speech of these two people. And we can see, we picture it, we can see the dotted wall. We need to fill up. Yeah, I mean. And Andrew Holness, the way back. I don't know him go stand up and talk, you know. But you can't shame on him. But when people angry with power and dictator, they're not shame. But you know, I just say, oh, look upon it, and I say, boy, no, sir. You can't say something wrong. Because the same thing when I talk about, we talk about corruption at them place here. And corruption and rural order. Remember, you know, Andrew Wallace Vita, when the Caribbean come together to vote against the destruction of Gaza, the dirty GLP them vote against it. But they never vote against, well, you have to say them vote against it. Because if you sustain, you actually vote against it. So you them sustain and what them do. Israel benefit from that sustain. And them deliberately do that. And then them come around and talk about hate, lele. I don't know how people are not ashamed, and that's why I say how long this can go on for, because them people don't have nothing about them. They talk about decency, integrity, nothing at all. And them talk on this so much. And I got me not like, you know. So we're going to listen the patriot people who fight with them country and puppet. And we'll pick out the difference. So we'll play Miss Motley first before we play Andrew Wallace. Play Andrew Wallace last. Because I'm going to go through them and pick out the little dots them we need to fill up. Yeah, man. So here goes.
Social crisis characterized by rising inequality with the consequences thereto, be it substance abuse, mental health challenges, homelessness, or human trafficking. Then there was a global pandemic lasting 2 to 3 years and taking
People want to take a good look at what me I try to pick out, you know. This woman talk, I look how much time she look down on her notes, right? We have to look on that, you know. That's where we look on and pick out the real, who is real from who is fake, you know. This woman talk and look how many times she look down on her rascal note compared to Andrew Wellness. This woman talk from her heart. Because Andrew Wellness government and Labour government, that's what they do, you know. Them get people to write speech for them. Write speech for them. Sweet speech where I got sound good to the people them, and all them call one big world conference and them head down in the speech, the written speech of them get. Right? So look on this lady I talk. And she hardly go through the rascal, hardly look down on her speech, you know, because she talk from her heart. Right? And I think them look for, and the substance what me see, and the realness what me see, the realness. Now this lady let's go again.
the lives of millions of people. And for those surviving,
Watch her, you know.
they had restricted movement and restricted choices.
No. No. Nope. Not this. Oh, yes. This is perfect. A little black dress for an iconic.
Sorry about the odds, people. Can't do nothing about that. Can't do nothing about that at all. So what am I going to do to get rid of that? Is go there and play it up.
black cap.
Yeah, odds can't do nothing about the odds at all. Because this is something we steal from these people, so them odds is there. So we can't get all this now. Bear with me. We can't get rid of the odds like that. So let's keep that and go there, so.
Oh, somebody ball out one.
For
Somebody say take them out.
every kind of land.
Lift them and say mighty God. Reverse them. Move them. Pull them out. Spray them out. Every cockroach. Every rat. Every criminal. Reverse them. Every chitty boy. Pull them out. Put a parliament. Every criminal. Every scammer. Every political scammer whose account can't count, all of them whose account can't count, back them out, spray them, push them, some push up in our parliament, run them out, I drink out the milk, pull them out, mighty God. Reverse them, indict them, mighty God, mighty God, mighty God, Holy Ghost, send a Holy Ghost, I spit them, deport them, out of God's house, some people in there, one get deported, back of the yard, send them back, Jezebel, Delilah, send them back at the yard. Ahab, send them back. Anyway, they Kingston, St. Andrew, Portland, St. Mary. Me I go St. Mary.
Yes, people, sorry about the odds, because you have we can't get rid of them odds, you know. Because we pay up a monthly subscription for premium from YouTube. For conference like this, the station who bring this live, them have them odds, so there's no way we can get rid of it. And that is the problem, but you know, we have to just work through it. Anyway, go on. Listener, this acting, you know, no matter how we can get rid of it. Because this a come from a, I'm not the same, this was the one of my video me I play. And on the YouTube night, it still don't have no ads in it. I pay for black that. But a stream like this now, you kind of say when you thief it, so you can stop the ad from coming at it. So you have to just work with it. Someone kind of look kind of weird, but I just say go. Yeah. Anyway, we're not going to watch that. We're not going to watch that.
Peace and prosperity. It is, my friends, the crisis of truth. Excellencies, when we lose shared truth, our communities, our countries, our global society loses their center of gravity. At first, the damage may seem quiet. Words bend and facts drift in the service of political point scoring. But slowly, over time, we descend into political tribalism. We develop alternative realities and we are unable to understand each other and communicate with each other because we lack a center. Then we grow suspicious of each other. In the absence of truth, trust deteriorates. And we see it all around us, in global forums, and indeed on the blocks and in the communities in our own countries. Trust between neighbors, trust between the governed and the governing, trust in our instructions, trust in our social order, trust in our health systems, trust in our global rules, governance structures. It all seems.
Because this is what I talk about now. It's when I sleep and I repeat and you hardly look on her notes. She hardly look on her notes. She just sleep from her heart. And Jones can't do that. Him head up just down all the while and just down and read off a thing and a turn over leaf all them things there. That's a definitely con man and con government. If you can come talk as a state person and talk where you know in your heart, more like write down something what sound good with the people them. And that's all it is. It's just a speech you write, a written speech. Somebody your speech writer do a good job for you. And you have to just go by it and you don't have nothing to say from your heart, like how this woman you talk. And that's what I pick from the really debate between the two of them, you know. So that's why I'm saying, you know, one a puppet leader and also puppet on a string, and this leader is a real portrait type of leader this. And you have to have that and show that, and she has showed that from a longer time. Yeah, man. And we see a lot of rascal difference between she and Jamaican Prime Minister. Yeah.
In the words of Chinua Achebe, to be falling apart. When we lack truth and we lack trust, law becomes theater, news becomes spectacle, and science becomes just another opinion. As I've had cause to say in this great hall on a few times, our world today worryingly resembles the world of 100 years ago. And this has become even more evident with the closing of our borders to both goods and to people. This has magnified the geopolitical tensions which had already taken root. Disturbingly, war, regrettably, has only entered the daily lexicon of the West, not when thousands were dying on the continent of Africa or in Myanmar, but when war came to Europe. Nevertheless, we still call for peace in the Ukraine. Only yesterday, a leading British newspaper reminded us that for 500 days, 260,000 people, virtually the population of my country, 260,000 people have been trapped in the Sudanese city of El Fasher.
This is how we're worried about them things, you know, worldwide, you know. About people, you know, whether you're black or white, they should just see this is a real leader, you know, as a Caribbean leader. You know. If you have a leader like this, it's not that one to sell out our country. And no corruption, investigation, right? And Wallace can't talk like this because he don't worry about nobody, no kids, old people. I look at Gaza. The people them really abstain against that, you know, so they don't give a shit about the kids who are dead because they're mostly interested in supporting Israel because them and Israel in a bed. That's why Israel get them big contract from Jamaica. To do wicked thing like the Pegasus to spy on people and help them again. Them help them again and thief the election. So which one Andrew Wallace care about Jamaican people? And you look a fool run up and down and I go like so well then. But them can't see the big picture. Them look on the small thing. Just like how them take small change We can't last them a week to support them. Yeah, man. And that woman really inspire me. Trust me.
The article reported that while political progress stalls, those who attempt to escape are killed, and those who remain inside are starved. The world must not ignore the horror in Sudan. And of course, I don't need to remind you that it must not ignore the horror in Gaza. The genocidal destruction taking place in both places must now have our full attention. And as it relates to Gaza, yes, there must be a release of the hostages taken on October 7th. But we have now gone to a point where all of our human sensibilities are offended by the continuous and disproportionate attacks on the Palestinian people and the failure to allow access by the international community to the survivors for the provision of humanitarian aid. The survivors are entitled, my friends, to use the words of Bob Marley. How can you be sitting there telling me that you care, when every time I look around, the people suffer in the suffering in every way?
The only time Andrew listen to come out and talk about Bob Marley is when it suit him election time. I will my swearing and things like that. But on a world stage like this, when we should not quote Bob Marley, it's a woman as Barbados and Barbados, you know. And you see, Andrew can't do it. Only when him rascal is confident and inconvenient for the Labour Party. Them talk about Bob Marley and heroes. So, you know, you can see the different other woman that chop through the whole thing. Anybody no feels, because this is really genuine, you know. That's not fake. Like Andrew, I'm fake. This man not fake.
In everywhere. My friends, it calls to mind the Roman historian Tacitus, who quoted a Scottish chieftain fighting against the military might of the Roman Empire. And I mention only the last two sentences. They plunder, they butcher, they ravish, they make it desert and call it peace. They make it desert and they call it peace.
And again, you know, I want to take all a note again. During her speech, she get a lot encore through during her speech. Andrew just don't get one. Only when he finish, him like a idiot speech. People clap because, you know, at the decent thing we do. And people have a polite. Because it was a circle. But he get one during theme Rascal like a speech. He's like a man in a wilderness. And this woman I get several because she attack the right thing and talk what people want to hear. People don't hear that still, you know. So that's why like Jamaican will jump up, and call themselves green people. They tell you say, what's coming to you now, go Rascal. Believe it. Believe you me, trust me. Now go Rascal, believe it.
Is that these children, when they become grandparents, will still be answering the innocent questions posed by their grandchildren 70, 80 years from now as to how they lost their limbs.
Yeah.
Granny, how did you lose your leg? And
Yeah.
when they answer, we run the risk that the violence and hate will be perpetuated for another 2 to 3 generations. This is not why we have come together. This is not good. And Madam President, it is happening under our watch. We can and we must do better to secure the peace across the world.
Now go here, Andrew always come up on the same things there. Remember Andrew Wallace come out and the opposition side when some baby dead at a PMP at the public hospital, when some disease break out. What them call that thing again, I don't remember. But you know, some kids lose them life and Andrew was there on the opposition side. And you hear him say, when it's shooting, that's how this brother operate, you know. Oh, I can hear the babies crying. I can hear the babies crying. And and look on the flip now. Them in power. More Pitney die and Christopherton never resign. And the PMP health minister resign. And he never hear Andrew Wallace come out and say, well then, can't hear the baby them crying. The man flip flop and everything, you know. These are the brother one wicked brother and one dangerous brother, this, you know. How long Jamaica will take to see this, bro? You know, cameras are putting in a context, you know, because the man the opposition side and I talk about because some baby die through some infection will break out, right? Not the amount when the film government, you know. And the man on the opposition side I say, well then, he can't hear the babies crying. He can't hear the babies crying. And that's how I'm afraid. And in a film government now, more kids die, more baby die. And I'll know, you know, come out and make a good statement. None of them. There's a beach on the bush. Nobody no resign. Nobody no take no responsibility for that. And I'm government. So I'm going to tell you, one of the biggest flip-flopper. One of the biggest flip-flopper I ever see as a government. Prime Minister. It's too blatant, you know, boy. So the minister try to compare, oh, you'll never hear Andrew Wallace talk like this about them old people who are lose them leg, them arm through war. People don't know it about war, they feel like think we live in a war now. They don't see it. And this man not talk about it. Instead of them talk about it and support the people them. Inside with Israel and sustain. So once him sustain, he gonna support Israel. So that them do it and some technical they do it technically a sideline. I feel like well nobody not gonna look on it. Cause all them can come out and say well, oh we sustain, but we support it. So if you support something, we are sustain, and the vote is there for them to vote. Or all of the Caribbean them vote. And uno alone sustain. So if you did blood vote with them, uno give Israel the upper hand. So them benefit in the long run. And you can't say when use really a leader what try to really and look you just the election other day, you know. That make it worse, you know. And here you is now at the UN gathering, the Caribbean, and look you can't, but then again you can't see the guilt on you when you go and listen to Miss Motley because we don't want to chat about you.
In the name of the children.
Chat about good people.
And let me say that at the
Good
very
leader.
least, the international community must immediately find the funding to support the children of Gaza and the children of Sudan for the next 3 months. UNICEF has said that in Gaza it is $66 million that is needed for the next 3 months. And in Sudan it is $200 million. The money is mostly nutrition related to reverse or to mitigate famine for children and to provide water and sanitation and health interventions. And we should note that there have been multiple disease outbreaks including cholera. So, Madam President, to be very clear as I move on, a lasting peace can never be achieved through violence, not continued bombing. It can only be achieved through justice as our guide and dialogue, talking. And lest we forget, where others are seeking to build the peace and to preserve humanity in Gaza, as we saw, the international community must not condone the bombing of those states who look to facilitate peace. It is a red line that we must never cross. Madam President, I say simply again, another year, the world needs a reset. We must find, first and foremost, whether we still agree on the same values that inform our charter. As simple as this seems, this is necessary in any reset. For values we all know have changed over the last 80 years. And we cannot assume that it is business as usual. And if it is not available to all of us to agree to those values, then we must at least know who does and who doesn't. In addition to our inability to bring about peace in multiple conflicts, there really still are a number of issues that threaten our way of life and the stability of our planet beyond war. The climate crisis, food insecurity, water scarcity, mass flow of refugees and displaced persons, poverty and increasing inequality within and between societies. It has become so insidious that people don't even talk about it sufficiently. And of course, the failing spectacle of the SDGs for too many of our countries and people across the world. And of course, unregulated AI, which, while it has tremendous promise, poses unregulated significant risk. Many of our people ask every day, why has the United Nations not done better recently? The simple truth, my friends, is that countries have lacked the political will to live by the Charter and to do what is right for humanity. Countries of different sizes, capacities, and cultures.
I saw me I try to talk about with looking at the notes and reading the notes. She just read the line, the first line, then she never look upon the notes again. She does attack because she attack the truth. And it flow naturally. But compared to Andrew Wallace, you see, the guy head down from the start, you know, stop as I read like him I read a book. And kind boy, I tell you, you know. And at them I look at thing when me look upon, you know. What they want to call it little thing or a big thing, you know. But you know, it's a big thing, but some people through them do it like a little thing. Those are little thing where you look upon, and you can really dissect the thing and say, well then look, that one really attack from our heart. And compared with Andrew Wallace, you can see the big fake and the puppet. Because I'm attack for the big boy, them, you know. You know, attack for team country, Jamaica, you know. That one attack on behalf of her country and the world alike. Because she a one woman where, even now in America, they like her, you know. She a one of the tough woman, you know. Because she remind me of Portia Simpson too. But Portia Simpson never really get the time to show more of her ability, as far as me see. Because she have the same type of intention and thinking as this lady. Yeah, man, as a woman leader. Yeah. So I just said, you know, we have to just pick the nonsense, or the sense out of the nonsense, whatever we want to call it.
Survive in this world in which we live if we maintain a rules-based system. It is no different to what we have to do in our own countries to maintain and protect the vulnerable and the weak. In fact, it's no different than what has to be done in a child's playground. The rules-based system is what protects us from bullying and from rogue behavior. Our charter was designed to promote compassion, equality, fairness. And this is why it is imperative that we maintain a rules-based system. I speak as a leader of a small country. Our future is placed at risk unless we preserve this rules-based system. The law of the jungle does not guarantee any of us a future on a livable, or indeed doesn't guarantee us a livable planet. We have simply to step up to the plate. And unlike the West Indian Federation, when one country left and the mass of the day was 1 from 10 leaves 0, we must remember that if there are those who don't want to be inside at the dance, that 1 or 2 or 3 from 193 does not leave 0. Does not leave 0. Those of us who remain can continue to pursue our vital interests. And we don't criticize countries for making sovereign decisions, because that's what governments were elected to do. If that's not what they want, that's not what they want. But let us get on with the business and protect our vital interests of preserving a rules-based system, to strengthen us, to build peace, to allow us to better face challenges from climate to pandemics to unregulated AI, and generally to build a better life for our people. There is no doubt that there is a case for efficiency gains to be made in this United Nations institutional framework. We know that. But once we finish the efficiency gains, member states who want or need a rules-based order must put their money where their mouth is. If we are to be protected by a rules-based system, then we must step up to the plate and provide the funds to bridge the gap to deliver the results that we desire. We must move from short pants to long pants and understand that we can no longer complain about the absence or behavior of a country and not ourselves be prepared to make wrong things right. It is as simple as that. And believe me, the arithmetic is not bad. It is within each of our reach to reach there, to do it. And let us remember the Aristotelian principle: equality among equals, proportionality among unequals. My friends, and while we contemplate the multiple crises, let us also not despair, because there are some things that have worked for the benefit of our people in the last few years. We now have, globally, a historic pandemic agreement that was adopted to make the world equitable, more equitable, and safer from future pandemics. A full appreciation of this will only come when the next pandemic hits us. We have agreed to the Seville Commitment on Finance, which seeks to fulfill the promise of the SDGs, and which, even though the funding has not been fully identified, has mainstreamed a number of financing concepts that were simply not taken into account a decade ago. Debt swaps, natural disaster clauses, or what they call climate resilient debt clauses. These are the things that we advocated in the Bridgetown Initiative. We have committed, also as a world, last year here, to an ambitious global action plan to combat antimicrobial resistance. And what does that have to do with any of us in here? I've said repeatedly, this is the silent, slow-motion pandemic of the 21st century, and threatens to reverse a century of medical progress. And when we know people who die from hospital-aided infections, we understand the importance of the vital steps taken here. Earlier this week, we successfully brought into force the Beyond Boundaries and National Jurisdiction Treaty. As a large ocean state as Barbados is, I am acutely aware of the critical importance to protect our oceans and its marine biodiversity as part of the ecological balance of the planet. And last year we adopted the ambitious Pact for the Future, which provides a roadmap, a North Star, for our work to protect people and planet of the future. The two instruments mentioned on Tuesday morning by our Secretary General for regulating AI must now be our priority if we are to avoid the severe deepening inequality of our times and to avoid leaving our people exposed to the risk and exploitation of AI and the distortion of facts. I must tell you that regrettably, I have experienced on a well-known commercial AI platform examples of censorship that seek to deny access to the details of our history in this hemisphere. In terms of the Barbados Slave Code, in terms of the South Carolina Slave Code. So we must be vigilant. Speaking as a small country, therefore, we see no future without a rules-based system. And before I go on, let me recognize the outgoing President of the General Assembly, His Excellency Philemon Yang, for his impactful presidency last year. And let me also congratulate Her Excellency Annalena Baerbock for assuming the presidency, particularly in this year when we celebrate Beijing +30. Barbados looks forward to working with you, ma'am, to execute your vision. The fact that you are only the 5th woman to occupy this post over the last 80 years is a cause both for profound concern, but I say renewed optimism. This is a testament to the very point that I'm seeking to make. The organization is working, even if not at optimal levels, but we still have so much to do. Madam President, on climate finance, there is climate and finance, I should say, there's a real danger that debates in this great chamber, at the conference of the parties and elsewhere, risk being reduced to mere performative exercises. We have watched the widely celebrated green wave which swept Europe in 2019. We've seen it now recede, and in its backwash, that continent now faces deep division over the scale, scope, and speed of delivery on commitments made to eliminate climate harm and pollution by 2050. We've seen others withdraw from the Paris Agreement. At a time, Madam President, when we should be conducting an audit of the achieved targets and accomplished deliverables, we continue for the most part to receive IOUs and statements of deferred intent. Even as we have witnessed this vacillation that I just referred to, we've also seen a rededication to breathing new life into high carbon and high polluting forms of energy. And we have witnessed a redoubling of efforts to fund military buildups, even at the expense of financing our way to sustainability and that of a livable planet. Barbados does not treat climate science as a mere conjecture, and neither does the International Court of Justice nor the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. Their advisory opinions have affirmed the legal rights and entitlements of citizens who must on a daily basis confront the impact of the climate crisis. In this regard, we especially welcome the International Court of Justice's ruling to the effect that states have obligations to protect the climate system and other parts of the environment from emissions, and that those obligations can be enforced against other states. Given this new reality as we look ahead, we must seize the opportunity to find common ground, given the diversity of opinions on this question of the climate crisis. I propose that one possible way forward is to focus on emissions rather than focusing on the fossil fuel industry. As I have said before, the fossil fuel industry is not the enemy. It is the emissions. In this regard, we should consider working towards a globally legal binding framework on methane, which could contribute to reversing global temperatures, I'm told by the scientists, by as much as half a degree, while purchasing time for the fossil fuel industry to scale up to a commercial level the use of decarbonizing technology. This is possible. The Baku to Belém roadmap must also ensure that the necessary resources, $1.3 trillion annually by 2035, are not only committed, but delivered. It is the political will and the ingenuity of countries and financial institutions that will ensure that these sums can be delivered. It must not, and we must not allow that roadmap to suffer the same fate as the Loss and Damage Fund, which, despite its historic establishment, remains grossly undercapitalized, with less than $800 million pledged, and regrettably, only half of those pledges have actually materialized. This ambivalence towards finance and fiscal space, my friends, is what gave birth to the Bridgetown Initiative. Its latest iteration, Bridgetown 3.0, will shortly be reviewed, given the rapidly changing global environment in which we live. We still need to expand liquidity support and to close the financing gap to assist vulnerable countries, especially the V20, many of whom still face the possibility of a debt crisis. They need it to build their resilience and to adapt to the new climate reality. I am conscious of the progress by which multilateral institutions have taken on board some of our arguments in the Bridgetown Initiative, especially as it relates to climate finance and to the issue of vulnerability. I referred earlier to debt swaps and the climate resilient debt clauses. Madam President, all of these goals and many more can be achieved by a fully functional rules-based system, one that is ambitious in its goals, effective in its delivery, and fair in its organization. As UN80 process seeks to enhance the functioning of this organization, we must ensure that we put in place the initiatives that are not the exclusive outgrowth of budget constraints and cost-cutting exercises, but are instead initiatives that are people-focused, delivery-driven, providing the global population with the peace and the security and the quality of life that they deserve and that they are increasingly demanding. To this effect, the Security Council, we know, must be reformed. It must reflect the multipolar world that we now live in, and it must give an opportunity to recognize that there have been substantial geopolitical shifts since 1962 when we had your last reform, 3 years before I was born, and I turn 60 next week. Permanent seats for Africa and a seat that revolves for small island developing states are an essential part of that reform, because we all have perspectives that must be heard. You cannot ask us really to show up for family photos and votes when you need them, and then exclude us from the family's decision-making as if you are the grown-ups and we are the children. We are not minors. We are independent, sovereign states with full capacity, and we insist on being treated as such. Madam President, I have left the peace and security of our Caribbean region for last. It is deeply troubling. Example, Haiti, and you've heard Prime Minister Gonzalez speak eloquently this morning on these matters. Haiti, which was once a beacon of emancipation and revolution for all of us as black people, is today a victim of centuries of external interference and contemporary internal conflict, and regrettably, even blindness. We want to thank Kenya for its extraordinary leadership of the multinational security support mission, even when they were out there on their own. We look forward to the enhanced support of the UN Security Council and the Organization of American States, even as we maintain a strong watching brief for this valued member of our Caribbean community as CARICOM. Haiti requires, I said it over and over, a long-term support plan that addresses security and development, not one at the expense of the other. With the requisite political will, the UN Security Council and the international development system are well equipped. They have the resources and power to deliver. We also want to urge dialogue with our friends and partners, especially in the United States, on the inescapable issue on the flow of small arms and light weapons, not only to Haiti, but indeed across this entire hemisphere, especially in the Caribbean with small states. Fragile economies in the democracies of the Caribbean community are now being threatened by this incessant flow of illegally obtained weapons and increasingly organized criminal elements which utilize them. But we will use the systems to deal with them collectively and in accordance with due process. We thank Secretary General Guterres for his unswerving support with respect to Haiti. And we now need others on board to ensure that Haiti can turn the corner and prepare itself for free and fair democratic elections. Madam President, Cuba has long been a source of support for many across the globe in times of conflict, health crises, and indeed colonial resistance, particularly in Africa. Cuba has paid, however, a high price for insisting on its right to self-determination. And again, yet again, we must be prepared to engage in dialogue in order to stop the disproportionate suffering and the deprivation that is being inflicted on the Cuban society by what is now globally seen to be an unjust embargo and other unilateral coercive measures. Barbados, my friends, reiterates its call for the end of the embargo and the removal of Cuba from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. This is unjust.
I and Joel is the same thing there. He said, but then just follow the fella. Let's write a nice speech.
We're now seeing a shocking violation of a hemispheric understanding that the Caribbean be treated as a zone of peace. There has been a buildup in military assets in the last few weeks in the Caribbean by both sides, by the United States of America and by Venezuela. We believe that any such buildup could occasion just an accident.
Yeah.
And if it does, a simple accident
Yeah, man. One little thing and she got everything
the
up.
Caribbean at disproportionate risk. I need not tell you, therefore, what a war can do. It is not acceptable for our islands, our countries, to be viewed as collateral damage. I say simply, for all who can hear and for all who read and can listen, full respect for the territorial integrity of each and every state in the Caribbean must be respected. And that includes all states. Almost all wars end as a result of dialogue. Let us make a greater effort to have the necessary conversations to prevent war. It is too simple. As I close today, I leave you with an image that has stayed with me for the last week of a young Palestinian girl of 6 or 7 years old walking in the midst of the rubble in Gaza. Her eyes were hollow and full of despair. It was clear that she was in great pain, but she carried her sister on her shoulders, both shoulders, clearly recognizing that it was she who would have to carry the burden of taking them to safety. My friends, this is the ultimate picture for me of hope and resilience. Let us be inspired that even in the face of the greatest adversity and challenges that the world faces, that we too can rise. For if a 6-year-old can push past the pain, all the physical and emotional pain, and still find hope that there's a better moment ahead of her, then we as leaders and members of the global community have a duty to to summon that spirit. The world needs it now more than ever. It is not beyond us to forge a better world that is fair and just. 80 years ago, it was just a few countries that summoned that will. Today, those of us who were denied the right to be heard then must now be the core responders to this critical clarion call. I leave you inspired by the words of the Lord as I think about the world. Inspired, I say, upwards and onwards we shall go.
Yeah, people. This is a patriotic Barbados Prime Minister. Not like the rascal at puppet and a string Jamaican Prime Minister, believe you me. Because that woman attack from her heart. She attack with purpose. And as I'm saying, if you look, she hardly look on her notes them. She know what she want to say. Once she read, once she touch the line where she want to touch one, she just talk freely. So that's really, really something that me like to see. More than somebody who flatter and batter around the corner by looking into notes and the head just down like that. I have no, because then I have nothing to say. Because when I read out of that note, I'm gonna stumble bad. But anyway, what we're gonna do, just go back to a little break and find Andrew Holness speech itself. Because I tell you, it's kind of really, if you see that speech, you can see the two big difference, right? You can see the two big difference. So back in a minute.
Woman, you sexy from your born. Walkie, woman. You born sexy. You sexy from your born. Spin your hole, make them see the bumper. And no dumper. Walkie, woman. Woman, you sexy from your born. Walkie, woman. Me like how we walk. The walkie, and a talkie up. You back it up, cock it up, fling it up, ice it up. The thing pretty, and buffy. Walkie, woman. You know sucky. You like when me shooby up. Walkie, woman. Like when you sweat